You ever see a man nearly lose everything he's built just because a bunch of strangers decided his life didn't fit their idea of neighborhood standards? Let me tell you, I never thought I'd watch my own grandfather get threatened with eviction after 78 years on the same ranchland his family had owned for over a century. All because the HOA president hated the look of his old Chevy trucks parked by the barn. They slapped him with a bill for $45,000 in Backdues. Like he was some deadbeat squatter and not the guy who practically mapped out this whole county. Well, let's just say Grandpa didn't get to be an old man by letting people walk all over him. But if you think you know how this ends, you don't. You know, folks like to joke that out here. The cows outnumber the people. Maybe that used to be true until the developers came. Urban sprawl chewed up half the pasture land. Strip malls sprouted like weeds. And one day, a big hotel chain started building right next to my friend's farm. That's not my story, but it's close. The farmer, being the stubborn sort, watched those contractors pour their concrete, frame up the walls, and when they were almost done, he walked up to the foreman and said, "That's a mighty fine hotel you're building for me." The guy just stared, lost. Turns out, the survey crew built half that hotel on the wrong land. Farmer let them finish, then made him pay up or tear it down. I always laugh remembering that one, because you don't mess with country folks on their own ground. But what happened to my grandpa? That was something else entirely. Grandpalates call him Gramps, was born here in 1945. Same ranch. Same rolling hills. 45 acres. Couple outbuildings. Red barn he rebuilt by hand. And his pride and joy, a lineup of vintage trucks from the 50s and 70s. These weren't junkers. Either. Restored. Polished. Probably worth more than most of the new cars in the subdivision next door. Grandpa knew every inch of his land because, well, was the county surveyor for 40 years. The man could tell you property lines like you and I remember our birthdays. 15 years back, a developer bought up the land behind us, threw up 50 cookie-cutter houses, slapped a pool in, built a clubhouse and a little playground. Suddenly, where there'd been pasture, there were HOA rules and fines for unsightly lawns. For a while, it was quiet. Grandpa kept to himself, tinkering with his trucks, raising cattle, living the retired life. And then Jacob moved in. Picture this, retired real estate attorney. Early 60s. Thick gray hair slicked back. Always wearing golf shirts tucked into iron slacks. He liked rules. And he loved being the boss. Ran the HOA like a private army, wrote fines for faded shutters. Measured people's fences. Threatened lawsuits for loud music. But his real obsession? Grandpa's trucks. Some of the new homes had a view of our ranch. And apparently, the sight of those old Chevys ruined the ambience. Jacob started a campaign. Said the trucks were an eyesore. Dragged down property values. Made the place look like a junkyard. Never mind that Grandpa's trucks were worth more than his Lexus. Jacob wanted them gone. I live 2 hours away, but I visit every month. Especially after Grandma passed. 8 months ago, I show up and Grandpa's on the porch, looking like he'd just lost a fistfight with a tornado. "What's up?" I ask. He slides me a stack of letters. HOA claims his fence is in their territory. Says he owes 15 years of back dues. Demands he paint the fence white. Tow the trucks. Shut down his cattle for agricultural nuisance. The total? $45. 000. I damn near spit out my coffee. "Grandpa, you're not in their HOA." I say, like maybe he'd forgotten. He just nods. Told them that. They don't care. Next thing you know, Jacob's showing up at the property line with a clipboard and a knockoff surveyor's transit. Poking around. Snapping photos of Grandpa's trucks. The man couldn't measure his own driveway. But there he was, making a show of it. Every time Grandpa tried to talk, Jacob would wave him off. "You'll be hearing from our attorneys." Most folks would have folded. But not Grandpa. He ignored it, figured they'd get bored and move on. He was wrong. 6 months ago, I got a call in the middle of the day. Grandpa's trucks, 3 of his best, were gone. Towed. In their place, a notice from the HOA, vehicles impounded. Violation of community standards. They'd added the towing fees to the so-called dues now. They wanted over $53. 000. Grandpa was pacing the living room. Fists clenched. Eyes cold. He said, "They think they can take my trucks. They think they can just walk in here and take what's mine." I told him, "Grandpa, this has got to be illegal. Nobody can tow cars off private land." He just shook his head. "Oh, it gets better," he said. "They filed a lien claim I owe them, and the county recorded it." I felt my heart pounding. A lien on property that had been in the family since 1905. All because some HOA wanted to flex. "We need a lawyer," I said. Grandpa smiled. That sly old smile. "We'll call one. But first, I got some homework to do." Now, here's where the story turns. Grandpa wasn't just some cranky old manha, had a private archive of survey maps, records, and the original land grant from 1905. All neat as a pin. He'd surveyed this area himself back in the 70s. Remembered every stake and stone. For the next week, Grandpa went full detective, dug out his old gear, resurveyed every inch of the ranch, compared it to the county files, checked every line, and then he found it. When the subdivision went up, the surveyor, some guy named Carl, botched the job. The boundary line was off by about 20 feet in a few spots. Know what was built on that strip of Grandpa's land? The HOA's pride and joy, the pool, clubhouse, even the brand new playground. All of it sat on Grandpa's land, and they'd been using it, rent-free, for 15 years. Here's the kicker. That surveyor, Carl, Jacob's brother-in-law. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it wasn't. But it looked bad, especially since Jacob had used that bogus survey to claim Grandpa was trespassing. In reality, it was the HOA trespassing on us. Armed with maps, deeds, and a righteous fury, we hired a real estate lawyer who nearly fell out of his chair when he saw Grandpa's files. We paid for an independent survey, $3,500 well spent. It confirmed everything, too. 300 square feet of common area, all on Grandpa's side of the line. We filed a quiet title action to settle things in court. But before that, our lawyer sent Jacob and the HOA a letter. It listed every inch they'd encroached on, calculated back rent $275,000, and demanded the lien be removed. Trucks returned. All fees paid. They had 14 days. Word spread fast. Jacob's lawyer called, blustering and threatening. But once he saw the evidence, the tune changed quick. The homeowners started hearing about it too. Jacob had sent all those letters, spent their dues money, and now it looked like he'd put their pool and clubhouse at risk. At the next emergency meeting, the homeowners voted Jacob out, didn't even let him finish his speech. They found out about the other shady stuff, 2 contracts for friends, sketchy spending. Some even sued him for breach of duty. Meanwhile, our case was solid. The court confirmed everything, too. 300 square feet was Grandpa's. The HOA had 3 choices: move the buildings, millions in costs, buy the land at Grandpa's price, or pay to use it. In the end, they paid $185,000 for back use, agreed to $12,000 a year going forward, paid all towing and legal fees, and issued a written apology to Grandpa. They even gave him $15,000 for emotional distress. The trucks came back home plus a little extra cash for the trouble. And Carl, turns out, this wasn't his only mistake. Other neighbors found issues too. The state started investigating, last I heard. He might lose his license for good. Jacob, meanwhile, lost everything: his job, his reputation, probably his marriage, since his wife was Carl's sister and not too happy about any of it. Grandpa drove past their house one day and saw a for sale sign out front. Some people just can't help but dig their own graves. So, was it justice? You bet. But Grandpa never wanted revenge, he just wanted respect and a little peace. With his settlement, he fixed up the trucks, added 2 more to his collection, even built a new display pad right up by the property line, so everyone at the pool could admire them every day. Classic Grandpa, turning a headache into a punchline. He never raised his voice, never threatened, just outworked and outsmarted them all. You know, I asked him later if he was ever scared. Or if he thought he'd lose. He shrugged. I knew I was right. Just had to prove it so no one could argue. There's a lesson in there, buried deep in the dust and diesel, about standing your ground, about knowing your worth, about the quiet kind of power that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you own. I used to think justice was something that showed up in courtrooms, or with flashing lights. Now I know it's a stubborn old man, a box of maps, and a lineup of trucks gleaming in the afternoon sun. But let me ask you, where's the line between fighting for your rights and letting things go? Was Grandpa right to dig in? Or should he have let it slide for the sake of peace? How far would you go to defend what's yours? Drop your thoughts down below. And if you've ever been on the wrong side of a little community justice, I want to hear your story. This isn't just entertainment. These are the battles that shape our neighborhoods, and sometimes ourselves.